All right, looks like we're on. Welcome everyone to the live stream. I just want to take a minute to thank everyone for watching my channel. Really appreciate it. The videos have been doing well, and that means you guys are watching and enjoying them, and I really am happy about that. So we're here today to talk about all things asphalt milling, the industry, pretty much anything you want. So ask your questions, drop them in the chat. Rizwan says hi. Hello. Glad to have you here. So I put up a couple of videos recently, one of a deep cut job going 22 inches. That was a fun one. And we put up a video of a country club that I've been working in, going back next week. I thought it was done, but it's not. So we're going back next week. And that one's been challenging. Hot weather, at least for me anyway. I'm not used to temperatures up around 110 or above. That's crazy stuff. And some challenges with that have been, the asphalt being gooey and wanting to come up in hunks, and actually ended up breaking a belt, tearing a big hole in it, and ripping a roller out because sometimes you just can't control how big a chunks fly off of the conveyor and does a lot of damage. I think I mentioned in either the walkthrough video or if one of those that the conveyor system is the weak link of the machine, and I proved that because I ripped a big hole in mine. So that wasn't very much fun, but yeah, it's been an interesting couple of weeks. But looks like we have a question here. 8D said, oh, that's a face. Anyway, had to look at that sideways. If you know you have a half pass next, how light do you like to cut on a 2-inch mill? So if it's directly a half pass, I'll do maybe half an inch up, maybe a little less. It really depends too. I'll look at where that next pass is, and if the curb looks a little high or the asphalt looks a little high, I may cheat up more to prevent making a low spot. But generally, like the more you're gonna overlap, like if your next pass is only gonna be a couple of feet, like on a half lane mill, then you want to cheat up more to not leave a dip, and especially like on radiuses, when you're cutting radiuses, you want to cheat up a lot because it seems like almost always the asphalt on like a curb return where like a crosswalk is, it always seems like they're higher than the existing asphalt. So you need to cheat up more. That way, when you're reading off of that higher surface, you don't leave a dip. So the simple answer is for a half pass, I would cheat up about a half inch. And just if you have the camera on the back door or you have somebody that can look for you, on the second pass, you can see if you're leaving that little uneven lip, and you can also maybe just cheat down a little bit deeper on the second pass to get rid of that. So I hope that kind of answers that question for you. But definitely a good thing to do that on a 2-inch mill, because then it'll all look smooth like one big drum did it instead of having little lips here and there. Sometimes you can cheat up quite a bit too if no one's looking, because if no one's measuring behind you and being like, hey, how come you're digging shallower, you can try to explain it to them. But if you can get away with just doing it, the more you cheat up, the less likely you'll have that problem. Cheers. Cool. Thanks. Glad to have you here. More the merrier on these live streams. Hope you've been enjoying the videos. I've been working hard to try to sneak in what I can on the job sites. This last one, I have my superintendent on the job, and I don't know how much he'd appreciate me taking videos, so I've been trying to kind of sneak them in when no one's looking, little clips here and there. Got me a second umbrella this time, so hopefully I won't be baking in the heat too much this next week. Again, we're in Southern California, so when I do work out in the desert, it's insanely hot. It's like we got 5 watchers. That's great. Let's see if I can adjust this. So showing me the participants. Anyway. cool. We got 5 people. Keep the questions coming, or just comments. Ask about the videos. Whatever you guys want to talk about. It's kind of nice to have this platform, I think, where we can talk about our work and what we do, or talk to anyone about this type of stuff, because asphalt milling is a little bit a unique piece of the industry. Not many people talk about. I know I come home sometimes and want to talk to my wife about it, and she's like, I have no idea what you're talking about. None of these terms make sense to me. So kind of why I created this was so we'd have a place. There's not much out there for people to talk about this particular niche of the milling industry. So we got 5 people here. Introduce yourselves. Don't be afraid of that chat. Trying to think of some questions that have come in that I haven't talked to lately. Oh, I know. Someone asked me how you can tell how many tons you're putting in a truck by looking at it, or if there's a way to tell, or if there's a way to monitor how many tons, especially on an eye machine. And on all the equipment, there is a tonnage calculator you can use that'll show you on the screen how much tonnage you're putting in. They're actually pretty accurate, but the downside is they're only accurate when you're making a full pass. If you're making a half pass, you have to actually go in and set where you can control and tell the machine you're making a half pass so that it can make the calculations right. But there is a display you can choose to come up on the screen, both on the I models and the FIs, that'll show you how many tons you're grinding. But again, it kind of makes sense. If the machine is basically just being a calculator and it's doing the calculations for you to figure that out. So if you're not cutting a full pass, it's still calculating like you are cutting a full pass, so it won't be accurate. And the more tight you stay to a full pass, the more accurate it'll be. They actually have a system on the FIs now. We have one machine that way that has lasers that read the ground and can tell when you're making a half pass, 3/4 pass, like whatever it is, it measures exactly and will tell you how many tons you're putting out. It's a genius system, and it actually maps the whole entire job so that through GPS and the speed sensors and all the different parameters on the computer, it can tell you at the end of the day how many square feet you ground, how much tonnage you've took out, or square yardage, or whatever you need to know. It gives you all of that input along with how long it took you to do the job. And it's actually smart enough that it knows that when you transport the machine to a different site, it'll reset the parameters because it knows it's on a different job site. So it's a really smart system, and that is incredible if you have that. It works really, really well. And they can even see it in the office over the internet. They can monitor what you're doing, which I don't think is too cool because they can tell what you're doing. But anyway. But as far as visual, looking in the truck to tell how many tons you're putting in a truck, you just kind of get a feel for it. And if you're doing dirt or something, or base rock especially, if you're doing rock that's wet, it'll be heavier. Asphalt will be a little bit lighter. But it's actually, you have to try really hard to overload a truck just by the nature of how it works, because it always piles up in the front. And since it's piling up in the front of the truck, the back half usually ends up fairly empty. So you can have a pile so big that it's like running out the side of the truck. And when they raise the bed up to level it, you'll be like, oh man, that's only half a load. So it's fairly hard to overload them, despite what the drivers will say. If you take their slips from them and they come back from dumping from the scales, you'll see like, oh yeah, they still had a couple of tons they could have hauled. There was this job I was doing a week or two ago that they told me, load them heavy. And so I'm like, all right, I'm going to try really hard to load every truck heavy. And some of them were meant to only carry about 18 tons to 20 tons, and they're coming back with slips 25, 26 tons. So those drivers did not like me very much. But it is possible, but again, you have to try really hard playing with the conveyor speed and everything, and how you honk at the truck to try to get them to take a full load, because they're smart. Despite some of the things they do that make you think they aren't that smart sometimes, they know how to get a legal load into their bed, and they'll pace you. They'll just stop moving forward so that it just runs out the side of the truck before you can get them full. It's frustrating, but it happens. So that kind of is a little bit about how you can tell how much you're loading a truck. Some of the things that I talked about on my last video, about I've been trying to use cross slope more and show how you use it and how handy it can be, especially with the newer equipment, the FIs, where you have that one button that you push. You push the one button and it'll automatically match the slope to where you're actually cutting and make that sensor active. So you can swap back and forth between slope and your normal grade control when you go over a pile or over a hump, or you go through anything where your side plate is going to go kind of up and down over it. You can switch the slope and it'll just maintain your cut and go right through it. It only works really well in certain situations. If you're coming, up to a hump or something like that, it'll end up digging too deep. But for the most part, it's a really big time saver to do that. It saves from you having to just dial in and dial back out your grade to make a cut through, like a second pass where you jumped a manhole or something like that. And then when I do it too, I tried to show on the video, but I won't match and swap the grade back in. I'll just swap the zero back over, if that makes sense, because sometimes it doesn't exactly ramp itself back out to zero, but when it gets fairly close, I'll just snap it back to zero, and that usually makes a pretty clean cut. When the asphalt is really chunky, like on this last job I've been doing, where it's, you go a couple of feet and it just goes kablam, and blows out a big chunk and jolts the whole machine. You want to be careful letting it do that, because it's really, really hard on the drum drive belt and the chunks that go in the conveyor belt. It's really hard on that because it'll actually, they'll tumble in the belt, and if you have like a sharp spot, that'll punch right through the belt. So the conveyor belts aren't that strong, so you don't want to try to avoid that if you can. So we got 8 people watching now. Feel free to jump in the chat, introduce yourself. I don't want to miss anything. Glad I was able to answer one question. Let's keep them coming. Or just tell me about if you're an operator, tell me about a job you were on last. Tell me what some of your struggles are, your pet peeves, things like that. Curious with the horn honks. I had a question on one of my videos about horn honks, like to guide the trucks, like what your code is. For me, it's 2 to stop, or 2 to go, 1 to stop, and multiple beeps to go away. And I'll do like 2 beeps in repetition, like beep, 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 beep for backup is kind of how I do it. But what do you guys, if there's any other milling operators here, what do you do? Just curious. And where are you from? Because I think different places have different codes. And what do you call your dump trucks? I heard someone from the UK was telling me they call them tippers. I thought that was genius. Here we call the ones with booster axles, we call them super dumps. See here, play around with this a second, see if I can tell who's in here. Still playing with this live stream stuff, trying to figure out the system. Eric Lara, you're here again. I recognize that name. Hello. Hope you're doing well, staying safe, staying busy. How is it not transporting your own equipment? You feel like you get less hours or about the same? Less hours for sure. I do miss the money, but I don't miss driving the truck. I've driven a low bed for 20 plus years every single day, and it got old, but I do miss the money. I mean, you're talking like, I would say easily 35,000 a year you miss out on just not driving the truck, which is a lot. I mean, you figure gate to gate, like, from 4:30, 5 o'clock in the morning till 5:36, maybe even 7 o'clock at night being on the clock. It's a lot more hours. You're getting 12-hour days, 13-hour days, like constantly, just because of the drive time. And the company I worked for before, they paid full grinding wage to drive the truck. So it was the same rate from the time you left in the morning until the time you got back. So usually, like, you know, 5-6 hours into your work day, you're already on overtime until you get back to the shop. That was really nice. Occasionally I'll transport here on certain jobs, like some freeway work I've had to transport where they need a truck on site, or they don't have an extra driver and they don't want, they can't leave the machine on the freeway. It has to be transported in, transported out. I'll get to do it and I make some extra money, but yeah, definitely, Eric, it's a hit in the pocketbook, but fortunately I'm in a situation right now where I'm making enough money, so it's okay. Do you transport your own equipment? I forget where you worked. I think you told me before, but just waiting for a response. This thing's a little bit slow today. If you do transport, do you like transporting? Just out of curiosity. Do you like driving the truck? I loved it for a long time. I still honestly do like it. It's just stressful and too much of a pain in the neck that I'm enjoying the break from it. There's one guy that works at this company that transports his stuff every day still, and that's what he said. He's like, yeah, I bet you miss the money though, and I do for sure. Any other comments? Keep them coming, guys. I know there's some watchers here. Try to see another topic here we can talk about. Okay, here we go. Eric, I transport my own equipment, non-union, but I got an opportunity working with the Silva Gates Union, but I won't transport my own equipment. I don't know, Eric. If I were to give you some advice about the Silva, if you know how to run multiple pieces of equipment and you're proficient at it, they can keep you busy. You'll probably be making more money, I think. I don't know what they pay you at the non-union place. When I worked for De Silva, it was many years ago, and I found that they don't run their grinders very much. I mean, they do, but not the kind of season you would work if you worked for a company that just does milling. I don't know if they're hiring still, but I would, if you're looking for a change and to be union and you want to transport every day still to make that money, I would suggest calling up Delta Grinding. I really would. You will not find, I hate to pitch them like this, but I'm serious. You'll never find a better company to work for than that company. Everyone I know there has been there for 10 plus years, and they are going nowhere. They love that place. So if you're looking to go union and you still want to transport every day, I would, and you know how to run a mill, 4 foot, 6 foot, whatever. I know that they just had a guy that did leave, was a younger guy. I'm sure he's going to end up regretting it. That was a 4 foot and a 6 foot operator. if you get in with them, you'll be very happy. But if you like the Silva, or if that sounds good too, go for it. They might keep you busy on multiple pieces of equipment. You might get a longer season out of it. But it's up to you. But I just want to put that bug out there because they are a very, very good company to work for. If I lived in the area, no questions, I would have stayed. It was just because for family obligations and things like that, I had to move down south, and I did for it's good enough of a company that for 2 years I drove from Southern California up there to work and drove home at the end of the week. It was brutal, but I made good money and I was happy with the guys I worked with and the company. So that's my pitch. I'll get off of that. But if you're looking for transport time still, that's the place. Or ANRAC, they're the same way. Or ABSL, they're the same way too. Cool deal. That's my 2 cents. I worked up there for many, many years, so I'm really familiar with all those companies. And I've worked for a lot of the companies up there that hire the mills, all the gelatis, North Bay when they used to be around. East Bay Mud, San Francisco companies, A. Ruiz, Esquivel, worked for all of them. Used to work for Roadway before they got their grinders. Tons and tons of companies up there. Familiar with all of them. If you like running grinders, that's what I would suggest. Try to find a company that just runs mills. De Silva may use you and dump you. That's what they did with me back then. This was back in 99, 2000, somewhere in there, 2001, when I worked for them. So it was a long, long time ago. They could have changed by their structure by now. Let's see, what's some other questions I've been getting? Can you teach us about how to run, Rabano, can you teach us how to run the machine in Eco 2 or 3 speed? Which machines are you talking about? You're saying Eco, so you're talking about a FI machine? Like a 207, 210, or the 120s? Give you a second to respond. Basics of Eco. I try to run on the FI machine Eco as much as I possibly can. It took me a long time to be a believer that actually helped tooth wear and things. The only thing is I go into the mill assist menu and I turn off the automatic conveyor pressure because that gets a little funky. But I try to run Eco because it keeps the machine nice and quiet. And if the ground is stable, as in like no hard spots, soft spots where you're constantly in and out of heavy loads, Eco works really well. If I can't run Eco, then I run Power on the FIs, and that will bring it up. Power is more like Eco 2 on the iMachines, the second drum speed. When I was running an iMachine every day, I always, the lowest speed I only would use if I was doing really slow detail work. Like if I was just cutting tie-ins or, some small dig outs, things like that. I always ran in the second speed. The second speed was my go-to. That was where I ran all the time. And if I was like really trying to go fast, like on a 1.5 mil or a 2-inch mill, and it wasn't, okay, you're on a 200, then I would run the high speed so I didn't run my pattern out. Because if you aren't spinning the drum fast enough and you have a high rate of travel, foot per minute, the pattern will get so rough that you're not even cutting the depth you're supposed to anymore. So I'd run number 3. But number 3 is going to burn a whole lot more fuel. So I recommend running the second speed as for the majority of the time. And if you want it nice and quiet, burn less fuel, run this number 1 speed. When you're just cutting little tie-ins and little small detail work that you're just barely crawling. Just listen to the machine and feel it. If it isn't moving smoothly, if you hear it, if it's struggling and your tracks are spinning, and then you need to kick it up because it doesn't have a whole lot of torque in the low speed. Despite what Workin will tell you, they'll tell you, oh, eco is where the most power is and the most torque is. Trust me, it's not. The middle drum speed is the best one. That puts it at about, I think, 1800 RPM, 1750, 1800 RPM, and that's a good speed. And then I said anything 2 inches or less, unless it's a situation where I'm just crawling, like doing a radius return or tie-ins or things like that, or we call them conforms. If I'm tracking down the road doing a 2-inch mill, and I'm always going to run the high speed just because it makes a way better cut. If you're not in a hurry and you're going to stay under maybe 70 foot a minute, then you can get away with the middle speed. But if you're going to go up to 70, 80, 90 foot a minute or faster, you need to be running the high speed. So I hope that helps. Any other questions I can help you with? Did your torn belt hold from your last video in the desert? It did. Still going well. Those clips work really well. If something hits it right in the same spot, it may, just right. It may rip out a couple, but I really doubt it's going to happen. That fix will probably hold until we change the belt, which could be a while because the machines are so busy, but I'd highly recommend keeping a bucket of those clips with you. They're not hard to put in, and they'll save your bacon on a job it'll keep you going. In that video, I think I shot some point how it had been holding up after a few hours and in the next day, and it's doing good. Looks a little ratty, and you can hear it going around the tail pulley where it's metal to metal, kind of irritating sounding. The repetitive, you can hear it going around, but it's keeping the machine running, so it's making money. We didn't have to bring another machine in. We'll see. I'm back out there again next week, so I'm going to shoot some more video next week while I'm out there. While I got 9 people in here, what kind of video do you want to see? I'm going to be on that desert job all week next week. I'm going to be staying out there, so I'll have some time after work. So if there's any technical stuff about the machines that you want, about the FI machine you want to know, I can dig into that and shoot you a video. I can do more just my hard hat GoPro stuff for you. I find when I'm running the machine, I finally got a microphone that I can use while I'm running the machine that you can hear me on. So I find just recording while I'm running, things pop in my head that I can kind of explain while I'm doing it. It's kind of how I did that last video. So now's a good opportunity. If there's any special requests, I can try to get a video out for you guys for it. I'm just an operator, I'm just a grinder operator, so I don't know what types of things people want. I'm kind of just trying to do my best. Provide some good content. Surprisingly, I've had a lot of interest. People have never seen the process before. Ever since I was a kid, I'd find a job site around my neighborhood, and back then times were different, but I would always end up, I'd be watching, the next thing you know, I'm riding along on a tractor with somebody. Like, it's kind of been like the way I was since I was a kid. So I think it was something I was just kind of destined to fall into. So 2-inch and up, you recommend running in 3-speed. Depends on how fast you're moving. But yes, 2 inches and shallower, I would run the number 3 speed. But if you're in a situation where you can't go that fast, like if you're only going 50, 60 foot a minute, or less, then I'd run the middle speed and just save the noise and the fuel. But if you're trucking along and, at a high rate of speed, you're gonna leave a better cut in the 3 speed, but you're gonna save teeth in the 2nd speed. The faster you spin the drum, the more strikes per minute the teeth are hitting the ground, if that makes sense, per your forward speed. Like, more teeth are hitting the ground per foot at a higher drum speed, so you're going to wear the teeth down faster, versus the slower you spin the drum, the less teeth are hitting the ground per foot you're moving forward, so you don't burn teeth as fast, but it leaves a worse pattern. It can get really rough. Like, if you were to put a straight edge across your cut and measure it, if you're going too fast, you'll find you may be cutting a 1/4 inch, 1/2 inch shallower than what you have it set, because the gap between teeth is so big because you're outrunning your pattern. And that's the main reason for speeding the drum up when you're moving quickly forward, is to keep enough teeth hitting the ground that you're still cutting the depth you're supposed to be cutting. Hope that makes sense. So the faster you spin the drum, the more you're going to wear the body of the tooth also, and the tip. And the slower you run the drum, the more you're going to burn the carbide tip off and not the body. It kind of sounds backwards from what I just said, but that's, in my experience, the way it works. The faster you spin it, you're going to wash the bodies out. The slower you spin it, you're going to burn the carbide off. And the reason for that, if you think about it, okay, you're spinning the drum slower. So as you're moving forward, that drum's coming around. You're dragging that tooth through the material further than when you spin the drum fast and it's just going chip, 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 as you're going along. It's contacting the ground for less time. The slower you hit it, you're going, it's grabbing and dragging through the material and back out. So the carbide is in contact with the ground. The tip is in contact with the ground for longer. So you're going to burn that tip off. You're welcome. Hope that helps. Any other questions? We got 3 watching still. How can I help you guys out? Kind of interesting to find out if there's anyone here that's still watching that runs asphalt mills. How did you get into doing this? Did you just happen to get hired to a company that did it and learned because that was the job, or did you have a friend? I think I've described before that I got into the industry through a friend. There was a friend of mine that the company he was working for was looking for helpers for posting no parking signs for the grinder to do their work the next day. And I was just a teenager, 18 years old. My job at the time was just delivering papers. Like, I haven't done anything. And so he got me in helping with traffic control and putting up no parking barricades, because we had to post them like 3 days ahead of the job so people wouldn't park. And slowly got around the equipment and made friends with the operators, and that job was over and they wanted to keep me on, so they started training me to run the machines. But curious if there's anybody else that runs asphalt mills, how you got into the industry. Or were you just on the paving side and then ended up just being around the equipment and learning? Or, like I said, I've been doing this since I was 18 years old, so it's been a long time. I'm 46 now. Been a union guy since I was about 19 or 20, something like that. So if you guys appreciate the video, hit the like. I really appreciate it. Hit that like button and subscribe to my channel. Got lots of more videos coming. And if there's anything, like I said, in particular you'd like a video on, let me know here and I'll try to shoot it this next week, get it up for you. Even if it's just a couple minute, really quickie video, I'll record it for you and post it. Nothing too small. I like helping the community out. Got 11 people watching. Feel free to introduce yourself, say hi. Eric said he started driving a 10-wheeler for a company, made friends with the grinder operator, and gave me the opportunity to learn. Cool. Manuel says, started when I was 19 as a laborer, then started to use Bobcat grinder, then in 30-inch Patelli, then 1200, then 1900, now 200 FI. So there's another guy that came from a W1900 and now up to the newer equipment. They've changed a lot, haven't they? From the old 1900 days. So Eric, what are the benefits of working for the union? The wages. Your wages are more protected. The union will give you raises. That your employer has to abide by. I think we're getting a big raise here in July. Should be coming like another $4 or something like that. The rate up there where you're at should be in the mid 60s, somewhere in there. Should be your wage plus like another $4 an hour vacation pay. So you're looking at close to $70 an hour by the time you do get vacation and regular pay. So if you think about that, you're making $65-70 an hour. And if you're driving a low bed, like for that company I was telling you, you're making that from gate to gate. You're up close to $100 an hour on overtime. Medical benefits are really good. And I think, in my opinion, you stay a little busier because a lot of the municipal work and highway work, things like that, you have to be union to work for them. So they have to hire union companies. Yeah, I remember those yo-yo sensors. You ever hook them on a bush or a tree or something and they snap back and break the sensor? And then you're done for the day on that and you have to run it manually or carry a spare. Hated that. It was fun to mess with the operator though, and jobs that didn't matter, like if you're in dirt or something like that and just walk by the machine and, just grab the wire and kind of tickle it a little bit and make the machine move and freak the operator out. That was fun. Do you remember the old 1900s too that had the sonar that read off the little plate on the side plate? And if you had them set too sensitive, the machine would hop and move around when you're sitting still. You have to turn the grade controls off. That was a long time ago. It's amazing those machines ran as well as they did, though, with the tech that they had on them at the time. Hey, Carson, it's going good. How are you doing? And are you in the industry, Carson? If you're liking the live stream, hit the like button. It helps the algorithm, gets my video out to more people. I really appreciate it. Can't thank you guys enough. The channel's been growing, and that's showing that people like what I'm doing, and I really appreciate that. It keeps me going. So not in the industry, but just enjoy watching the old road going. Okay. It's a neat process, you know. Back in the day before they had asphalt mills. See, the guy that got me in the industry actually worked for a company that did it this way. Um, they had these machines called heater remix machines. And basically what it was, they either had propane or diesel heaters. They had these big hoods that would like flip down off of this machine that was like a trailer. And it would literally melt the asphalt. And then it had these scrapers that look like a rake that go behind the machine and would rake up the asphalt. And then they would actually use a blade, like a regular like dirt work blade, that would come along and scrape the asphalt up into a windrow, and then they had a machine that would pick up that and load it into a truck. So you can imagine the EPA would never allow that nowadays. I mean, it would get so hot that it would kill everybody's landscaping on residential neighborhoods. It would kill their bushes and leave big brown spots in the trees. Like, it was horrible. But that's how they had to do it before they could grind. And then the first grinders didn't even have conveyor belts. They would just lay the material behind them, and you had to have a pickup machine that would come in, pick up the windrow, and load the truck. And the truck would have to back up with the pickup machine. Then the really old school, the grinders had belts on the back, not the front. So the operator had to look behind him to load the truck, and the trucks had to back up behind the machine. And I've actually ran some of those, so that's gives you an idea how long I've been doing it, back to those old school machines. It's crazy how much the industry has changed, how far it's come in a very short time. Just in 20 years, you know, if you get a chance to see a machine that's 15, 20 years old, it'll look so archaic to what we have now. So what do you do for a living, Carson? I think I see you're still in here watching. Emmanuel, I think I've seen you on my live streams before. Almost positive. Where do you work? Just out of curiosity. So he used an old 24-inch Ingersoll Rand grinder, really heavy. So the guy that got me in the industry, he used to, oh, that's right, Bostic, I remember now. Uh, they had an Ingersoll Rand, had a bunch of little tires on it, kind of like a paver, and it was 5 or a 6 foot drum, and it just laid the material behind it. It's Carson, you're a lineman, okay, for power, okay. It's cool. So you're in construction. So Manuel, how's Bostic? Are they staying busy right now down here? A lot of milling going on. I haven't seen any trucks around lately. They keeping you busy? How does it work there too? It's a bunch of questions, I know, but how does it work there for the milling operators? Do you just run the mills and that's it, and maintain the equipment and that's all you do, or do they make you run the mill and then help the paving crew out the rest of the day running other stuff? Almost every day, wow. And that's all you got to do is run the mills, or do you have to do other things too? Yeah, see, that's why I didn't go to work for them back in the day when they asked me to, because I didn't want to do that. I like just running the mill and going home. That is the one really nice thing about working for a milling only company. You might have a 2 3 hour day and you're going home. Eric, if you're still here, that's another perk of the union, 8 hour minimum. You can go out and bust out a 2 hour job and come home and get paid for the day. You run almost every piece of equipment you have. So I guess you get more hours that way. But like I said, if you're union and you're running a machine, you're going to get 8 hours regardless. As soon as you start, you're going to get 8 hours. So I guess you get more hours in a long day running everything else. So who takes care of the grinder when you're done? Or you just wash it out and grease it and that's it? Or does somebody else handle that? Yeah, Bostic's not a union. They probably never will be. The mechanics take care of it. That was one thing when I worked for De Silva Gates that was kind of nice. Every day their lube truck would come out and they'd grease the machine for me and put diesel in the machine for me. If I broke the machine, the mechanics would come out and work on it. I didn't have to do nothing. That was kind of nice. Now, obviously, like you see in my videos, if the machine breaks, I got to fix it. So I don't know if I have the same people watching, but if there's any videos you want, any requests, let me know and I'll try to get them out for you. This next week, I'm just going to do some more POV stuff, just watching me run the machine, and I'll chime in when there's anything I think it's useful I can tell someone or teach, share a little bit of knowledge. But honestly, the job I'm doing is not a hard one. It's just a 3-inch removal. I got some more cul-de-sacs to do starting out this next week, and then it's just going to be mowing the lawn, like I call it, and you're just going straight and loading trucks, nothing special. We're getting ready to wrap up in 10 minutes, so if anything else anybody wants to chime in with, now would be the time. Love to see where the millings go after the trucks take them away, but I know you're busy on the mill. Yeah, I wouldn't be able to film that, but I can tell you where it goes. Right now on this job, some of it's going to a nursery. I know that they're using it as gravel for, I'm assuming a parking lot or a driveway, something behind around the nursery. And some of it is going back to the asphalt plant to be recycled. So the vast majority of the time, the grindings are going back to the asphalt plant, and either they get credit for it for their new asphalt that they're going to haul out of there, or it's just a free place to dump. That's how the asphalt plant gets material to make asphalt. Very little now of asphalt plants material they're making is from raw new materials. Almost all of it is recycled asphalt now. That's one nice thing about asphalt milling is it's probably the most environmentally friendly way you can do it because everything gets reused. But it does make excellent driveway material, especially in a hot climate out in the desert. It kind of all melts back together. It doesn't collect dust and stuff like that. Question: last Thursday I was removing 6 inches down to the dirt. My back scraper gate wasn't lowering level. I was trying to do what you explained in your video to move the valves behind the gate. That wasn't helping, huh? You gotta make sure it's washed out really good and doesn't have material in it. That's one reason it couldn't be doing that. So again, a way to adjust those valves is open all of them all the way, and then turn in the ones that are going the fastest. So if the right side is going fast, you want to dial that one down. And like I said, those valves are one-way valves. So you want to adjust the side of the cylinder the fluid's going to be escaping from. So if you want it to go down slower, it's the valve on the bottom that's going to the bottom of the cylinder you want to adjust. You'll see. If you're adjusting the wrong one, it'll get slower the way you don't want it to, and then just open it back up and turn the other one. I forget that 200 you're running. Is it I think did they make a 200 FI, or is it just a 207? Can't remember. So you're running an I machine, right? Yeah, you dump millings in a pile and any kind of sun hits it or warms it up, it's going to be a big chunk of. If you can break the crust off it, it'll be soft inside, but yeah, it'll get hard again. Try tomorrow doing oh, you are running a 200 FI. I didn't say, I wasn't sure they made that. Doing a removal job, 75,000 square feet at 6 inches. That's a pretty decent sized job for 6 inches. You can have a whole lot of trucks. It's such a pain in the neck when the back door won't go down the way you want. Is it that it's not lowering the right speed, like so one's going down faster than the other, or is it that one side won't go down all the way? Because I've had that happen before. And I found that it was material built up in the door. There's like a shelf that the back door comes down onto, that there's a limit. And if material gets crammed in there, then the door can't go down enough on one side. There's these little squares on each side of the back door. And if you look in there, you'll see what I'm talking about, that when the back door is all the way down, it rests on that little ledge. And if there's material in there, it'll actually hold the back door up. And sometimes too, I found no matter what it is, it'll go down a little bit crooked, and the right side goes down faster. It's like scraping the dirt, and the left side is leaving grindings behind. If you bump the back door up and down, like just cycle the switch, like up, down, like that, can you get it to sit level, or it just won't go down at all on the left side all the way? I've had a problem with one of our machines where the parallel to surface wasn't set right, and the machine was actually nosediving the whole time. And so the back door was having to go down farther than it normally does, and it won't go down enough. So I had to reset it with the back end squatting down just a little bit, and then it would, and then it'll work right. So it goes down, but not all the way. And bumping it up and down won't help, huh? I'd say try to look in those little square holes on each side and see if there's any material built up in there that's hardened or whatever that's not letting it go down all the way. But yeah, let me know and how it goes. I might try to do this live stream again next week. It seems like some people are enjoying it, so I might keep doing it. See how it goes. If not, just throw a comment on one of my videos because I check all those comments and try to respond to all of them. You can comment on that on the video about that backdoor adjustment, and I'll see it. Just out of curiosity, what is the purpose of grinding out a section of roadway, paving it, and then grinding the entire roadway, including the freshly paved section again? Generally, when they're doing that, it's called T-capping. So they're grinding like a pothole or a trench line. No problem, Manuel. Anytime. That's what I'm here for. Generally, they'll pave patches, and then to cover those joints where the edges of the patch are so that water can't get in, they'll grind the patches, and they can't leave them low because cars would be driving through a pothole basically. So they pave them all the way to the top, and then they'll take like 1.5 inches or 2 inches off the whole road and repave the whole road. That way, one, it looks better because you don't have all the patchwork, and two, that section of asphalt that covers the whole road basically seals off that patch they did, if that makes sense. A lot of times they'll do it over a trench line, or we call it dig out, where there's a spot that they need to grind out that the base has failed and it's sinking. Seems like a waste, I know, but there's actually a purpose to it. So any other questions before I go? Or any requests for a video, something I can show you? That doesn't make sense, Voniels. I don't know why they would do that. Sure, they had a reason. Maybe there was something that failed and they had to do a rework on it. Unless they were just doing a temporary fix before they could come in and do the whole thing. I can't say I've seen much of that where they'll pave a section and then come out and take everything back out again. Alrighty guys, well the hour is up, so I'm going to turn off the live stream now, but feel free to shoot some other stuff in there. Oh, here, Eric, I'll catch your question really quick. What's the difference between a 200 Fi and a 210 Fi? So the 200 Fi has a Cummins engine, and the less horsepower, and it has the DEF system. Now, this is going from my experience on what I've seen with our 207. The 200 should be the same way. Now it may have the new ones may have a John Deere motor in them, and the 210 Fi has the big C18 Caterpillar for the most part. The brand new ones have the John Deere engine now, and we have one, but I haven't ran it yet, so I couldn't tell you how it performs. But that's the main difference: more horsepower. I think it's like 800 and something horsepower for the 210 and closer to like 600 for the 200. High fives or 600, something like that. So that's the answer for that one. But catch it again next week, Eric, if you can. Bonnie Hills Manual. Appreciate all your comments. But I'm going to shut it down now and go about my day. But feel free to comment on the videos if you have any more questions, and I'll get back to you for sure. So everybody be safe out there, and we'll catch you next Sunday, probably at 1 p.m. again. I'll put a comment in the community letting you guys know. So have a good day.